Welcome back. So we have talked about the solar console and how it sort of comprised of different beings that are within the solar system, and how the solar console oversees all that activity in sort of attempt to support and manage it towards more syntropic system. Last time people asked me what that means, so I'll mention again. I think I said that somewhere else. Entropic and syntropic. So syntropic system is a system where the life force is generated from itself. So it's sort of like a tube torus structure when the energy is naturally maintaining itself. That is the universal holographic imprint. This is the template by which everything is made. The universe is a syntropic system, right? We cannot run out of energy. We're always going to have energy. Everything is interconnected, and there's always enough for everybody, more than enough. So if we are in that abundance frequency, we naturally sort of generate energy within itself. That's called self-sourcing. And you can self-source different energy. Self-source abundance, self-source love, and all sorts of different frequencies. So that's what that looks like. Now, entropic system, think of it like the opposite. It's when the energy is siphoned out of a particular system that generates it. So then eventually that bubble of energy becomes empty, right? Let's say something siphons it out and then it runs out of energy. So beings that choose syntropic system, they take over, use, and then move on somewhere else because they used it up and it's not sustainable anymore, so they have to go elsewhere, or they die, they run out of energy. So there are some negative entities in the universe that are following this entropic model, which is not supported by the universal energies, which is why they end up having to do so much work in conquering worlds and trying to take energy from, let's say, conscious beings that are able to generate it, but not at a level of consciousness enough to tell them to go away. This is part of the sort of environment we live in, and this planet has originally been syntropic, in harmony in the universal model. Then the beings that came here and modified it, and as I said before, human beings chose to agree with that system and gave their power away. That was not a very good choice, but nevertheless it was the choice of the Earthling soul group. So they made that choice, and the system became entropic, which means that whatever we generate here ends up being siphoned out, and there's always somebody that's benefiting, so there's always not enough, and everybody's trying to take something. This is, lower 3D Earth, essentially. What we are building here is the higher 3D Earth. That is a blueprint based on the syntropic system that still exists here in the third dimension. The star being that is our consciousness entity that is inside a planet that holds this simulation, she wants the syntropic system, and that's the one she's holding. So all the conscious entities, including all the star seeds and forerunners, which are conscious humans, that are able to hold that higher 3D range, are supporting this syntropic system, which is the higher 3D Earth. It's an ascension timeline. It's a frequency range that goes up, while entropic system is sort of descension timeline. It's the falling asleep further and further and being controlled. So we are trying to wake up by building this system that is syntropic and in agreement with the universal consciousness. And Solar Console has a lot to do with that. They've been very much instrumental in supporting that and coordinating all of the beings that are on this planet that were involved, and outside of this planet but inside the solar system and beyond the solar system. Those are the Guardian Kadishtu that I work with. Those are the beings that are of a much higher frequency range. Most of them are higher dimensions, like beyond 7, like let's say 10 dimensional or 11 dimensional. So they don't really have forms or spaceships. They function in a very different way. They pure consciousness that can beam and resonate and amplify and so on. So all of that has been coordinated by the Solar Console, and especially recently in the last 5 years, there's been so much going on with sort of attempt to clear this entropic system out of existence from the simulation so that we can fully become syntropic. We're not yet, but we're working on it. So we each can do our part by being able to sort of work with ourselves, by choosing to do the work, by standing in self-love, self-worth, personal enoughness, and inner authority. The more we do that, the more we're actually supporting the self-sourcing, which is the syntropic system, which is the higher 3D Earth, which is what we're building here. Okay, back to the solar console and how solar console resonates with us, the human beings. One of the ways that that happens is every time there is a particular upgrade, something that could work within the human blueprint and upgrade the person, not just one person, but like humankind in general, and it's allowed by the universal law. In other words, it's not going to override somebody's lesson, because solar console might know the best possible harmonious ways, but you can't just come and stick it into a person, because then essentially that takes away the lesson that the person is learning. So once we started a lesson, we have to finish it. You can't just get off halfway. And because of it, a lot of the high frequency things that kind of available, upgrades energetically, downloads and all sorts of things, they cannot come in until we make space for them, because we have learned the lesson, which is, by the way, another reason why we really should be working on ourselves and making sure that we are not resisting the lessons that we have put on our path, so that we can get the downloads the solar console is happily broadcasting out there. But we can only pick up what we can work with, because it would not be fair to try to download into a being that's not capable of working with the energy, something that will overload its systems, right? So only the energies that we can work with are the energies that our system picks up. But solar console diligently broadcasts all sorts of upgrades. Kind of like, think of it like in your computer systems. You might have it automated, but it pretty much always tunes in and gets something that upgrades it so that it's more compatible with the new systems that are out there. The same thing here. Human energy field, it's a blueprint, it's a program, and there's a generic component to it, and then we each make our own modifications to it to make it unique to us. But pretty much there is a generic sort of overall imprint that the tribal consciousness shares of the entire soul group. So starseeds, that's a little different, because we can vibrate at a different range because we came from the different range. But earthlings, as one soul group, does vibrate within one particular parameter, and that's the tribal consciousness. So as the tribal consciousness of the humankind evolves to the next level, just a titch, as soon as that happens, solar console happily broadcasts all sorts of amplifications to that, right? Because, oh my God, they did something. We can go further. We can do something more. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.